How are you?
Right, thank you.
Must be hot. You hear that?
Yes. You know, it's hot, my hair goes up, yeah. Yeah.
Just before we start, everyone, I might just quickly tell you about the microphones that are sitting in front of you. You'll notice they're slightly larger than you used to. The existing system, it became too variable, so we've implemented a temporary measure, which is we've got another redundancy built in. Just be aware they're constantly live, so you won't be able to turn them on and off. Okay? Thank you.
Okay, that's 7 o'clock. We might get started on our first council meeting for 2026. Welcome elected members, staff, and of course the gallery. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Just going to run through the order of business. We're going to start with the statement of acknowledgement, and we would like to acknowledge this land that we meet on today as the traditional lands for the Kaurna people, and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Kaurna people as the custodians of the Greater Adelaide region, and that their cultural heritage beliefs are still as important to the Kaurna people today. So just rolling through, roll call. We have no apologies. Just while we're on apologies, I just want to acknowledge the passing of Councillor Paul Kosh. The acknowledgement and the hit that obviously it's taken on this chamber and on the council and on the community. I think it's fair and reasonable that we'll just pause for a moment and give a minute's silence. So I'm just going to start that minute silence now, and I'd ask the gallery to join us as well, if you wouldn't mind. We won't stand for this. Thank you so much. I know that means a lot to elected members, staff, and everyone in the room. We're going to work through our agenda. Do I have any motions to grant leave of absence, members? There being none, we have no recorded leave of absence also, and no non-attendance. I'm just going to move on to public open forum. Now we do have our public open forum nominee, Richard Holt. Would you like to come and speak into the new microphone there?
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Richard. You have the floor.
Mayor, Deputy Mayor, councillors, council staff, CEO, ladies and gentlemen of the public gallery. My name is Richard Holt from the Gawler Relay for Life team. I know many of you, and no, I'm not here to present this year's report to you. In fact, it's a rather more, we think, personal and auspicious occasion that we'd actually like to acknowledge a particular councillor tonight, namely the Deputy Mayor, who Gawler Relay first came across him as a high school student when he was at Xavier and decided that he'd try and mount with his colleagues a team in our relay. We're very pleased to say that Ethan's efforts with his colleagues there has led to a number of school-based teams now being involved in the Gawler Relay and a number of youth being involved. In addition to that, we've also seen that Ethan not only joined our committee after school time, he also went on to do a number of things within the community. And we just think that it's very appropriate that he moved into his role here in council. He's been a very, very important person in the community, helping people wherever he can. And we'd just like to acknowledge what he's done for the community, and particularly for Relay, and say thank you, Ethan, for your efforts, and all the very best in your new role in Melbourne. To that end, I'll ask Ethan to come to the microphone, and we'd just like to give him a present on behalf of the Relay Committee. Just while he makes his way up, we thought it was a good idea in this particular gift that we're about to give him something to say welcome to Melbourne. So there are a few items in it that say, you know, use these skillfully as we know you will when you travel around Melbourne. But also there's also a number of things there in the package that are actually Gawler-based items for him to remember where he's come from. We know he won't forget his home roots, and all the very best to you, Ethan.
Thank you very much, Richard,
Thank you
for those kind words. Thank you very much, Richard.
Thank you, Mayor.
And we have Deputy Mayor's parents in the room, so I'll get you to open those presents later. Thank you very much, Richard. Very kind words. I also have a I told you so for Ethan's mum to deliver as well. We saw his trajectory very early on in the piece. Thank you very much for that. We are now on deputations. We have nil deputations, we have nil adjourned items, and we also have nil petitions. Can I please get a mover for the confirmation of minutes for the December meeting, 16th of December? Councillor Davies, you're happy to move that way? Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hennessy, you're happy to move that way? Any discussion? There being none, I'm going to put that to the chamber. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. I might do that one more time. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Now we have any business arising from minutes is nil. We move on to our first decision report. We have item 9.1. This one I'm just going to read out for elected members and for the gallery. The Council's recommendation is that 1, we extend our sincere condolences to Councillor Paul Koch's family and friends following his passing on the 3rd of January 2026. We receives the notification to council members from the Chief Executive Officer, Chris Cowley, that the office of a member of the council, formerly occupied by Paul Koch, became vacant on the 3rd of January 2026. Looking for a mover for this motion, Councillor Hughes.
Yeah, I'm happy to move the motion. I've also got a personal statement.
Absolutely. Take, please. Yep.
Okay. This is a statement of thanks and remembrance to the members of the Gawler community. Today I speak with deep respect and gratitude to honour Councillor Paul Koch, a colleague, a tireless advocate and one of the most active and passionate community servants I've ever known. Paul and I were elected to the Town of Gawler Council at the same time in November 2010, and from that moment on, his commitment to Gawler never wavered. For more than 15 years, right through to his recent passing, Paul gave his time, his energy and his heart to his community. What defined Paul was not just how long he served, but how he served. Even while unwell, Paul continued responding to council matters, engaging in discussions and discussing decisions. He was rarely absent, hardly ever missed a meeting, and always arrived prepared, informed and ready to contribute. Service to the community was not something he did on the side, it was central to who he was. Paul was a forward thinker. Long before it was popular or widely supported, he was a passionate advocate for electric vehicles, serving as president of the State Electric Vehicle Association. An active member when doing so required conviction and vision. He volunteered his time, promoted change and believed deeply in sustainable transport and cleaner futures for local communities like ours. Paul also worked hard in keeping council's operating budgets balanced, even when doing so was not popular. He believed strongly in responsible long-term financial planning that the community could afford. Paul was one of the council team who helped secure funding to rejuvenate the Gawler Institute and buildings, believing these important community buildings needed to be protected and renewed for future generations, while also keeping affordability and sustainability front of mind. Paul was also a strong advocate for young people, having a genuine voice in local government. In our early years on council, he worked closely with the Youth Committee and supported the Youth Film Festival, one of the many projects he helped lead with persistence and quiet determination, never seeking kudos, only outcomes. He believed in young people and he backed their creativity. That same passion flowed into his work for safe and inclusive cycling in Gawler, supporting BMX families, Gawler wheelers, women riders, new cyclists and community groups. Paul believed infrastructure should serve everyone and he worked hard to make Gawler safer, healthier and more inclusive. His involvement spanned many organisations and causes: the Gawler River Flood Management Group, the Northern Adelaide Waste Management Authority, environmental groups including Friends of Sandy Creek, Whitewell Creek Restoration and other local ecological improvements including our North and South Parra rivers. The Gawler East Powerline Reserve with native grasses, daisies and forbs. He was active in planting and watering and weeding. Community gardens, including my own garden and many in Gawler and gardens, he was very hands-on. The Gawler Makers Market was a recent passion Paul instigated. He instigated the market with grants and recruiting a committee. He turned up and worked hard promoting it, even waving signs out on the road to attract people. The market will be one of Paul's many legacies. Paul was also someone who stepped into the hardest spaces. He worked tirelessly in committees that were struggling, including the Royal Society for the Blind, Gawler Fundraising Auxiliary Committee, which had dwindled to a very small group. Rather than walk away, Paul stepped up. Together with Margaret and their family, he helped rebuild the group, and Paul and Margaret took on training guide dogs, a powerful example of turning commitment into action. Despite everything he gave to the community, Paul never lost sight of what mattered most. He spoke with pride and joy about family matters such as Rory's cricket and Imogen's studies and achievements. His love for his family grounded him even as his demotion to public service kept him constantly busy and often not at home. Paul put the community first. He was active, passionate and relentless in his efforts, not for recognition, but because he believed deeply in local government and the difference it could make in people's lives. To Margaret, Rory, Imogen and the entire Koch family, thank you. Thank you for sharing Paul with Gawler for so many years. Thank you for supporting him through countless meetings, phone calls, site visits and volunteer commitments. His legacy belongs not only to this council and this town, but to you. Paul Kosh leaves behind safer streets, sustainable gardens, stronger community groups, environmental progress and a standard of service that challenges all of us to do better. Vale Paul, thank you for your extraordinary service. You will be deeply missed and always remembered.
Thank you so much, Councillor Hughes. Looking for a seconder. Councillor Hennessy, would you like to add a few words?
Yeah, I just thank you, Councillor Hughes, for so many beautiful words, and the fact that Paul's family are listening in tonight, as Paul did all the way through his illness. I hope you take some comfort from those lovely words. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hennessy. Councillors, the floor is open. Any other comments that would like to be made? Councillor Sam.
You just talk.
You just talk straight into
Just
the
talk.
microphone.
Jesus, not bad at that. I certainly thank you, Councillor Hughes, for a very big rundown of professional way that Councillor Kosh and I came in when I was mayor, and all the way through the last 15 years, and that he was the person that I went to for advice and things like that. I'm not saying that I always agreed, but his professionalism, the way he supported people in the community with the Blind Society and anything volunteer, Paul was always involved with it. He always found time to be involved. So without a doubt, we're certainly going to miss him. And I look forward to continuing on till December, and hopefully then we can find a very similar person, which will be hard to find, to replace Councillor Kosh.
Thank you, Councillor Samble. Any other further comments? There be none. Mover, is it okay if I just provide a couple of comments myself, and then I'll move to you for the closing? I think you touched on it really well there, Councillor Hughes, on thanking Paul's family for sharing Paul with the community, because I think Councillor Kosh's passing will leave a massive hole in not only what we do here in council, but the volunteering hours. And I don't think a majority of the community actually understands the amount of hours that won't now be filled because we don't have someone like Paul Kosh. There are many a time where we would be debating an item and we'd sit on different sides of that item, but I like to think, especially in more recent times, that actually made the conversation stronger. I'm going to miss his scrutiny in the budget process, because we are trying to start some new things, and without his oversight, without his experience, I think we're missing a great asset on that oversight, and that's not something to be shrugged off. And that's just what I think this council's missing, let alone what their family's going through, let alone what the community will miss out that won't be fully realised when Paul's not rocking up. So thank you so much, Councillor Kosh, for your service. You will be missed and never forgotten. Councillor Hughes, did you want to close the debate?
I don't have anything else to add, but I was wondering whether my statement could be added to the minutes.
Absolutely. If you'd be able to send that one through, I think we can make that happen. Thank you very much. Okay, to that, I'm now going to put that motion. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. So moving forward, we have item 9.2, looking for a mover. That's page 7. Looking for a mover. Councillor for this role. Any nominations for the Gawler River floodplain? I know you're the proxy, Brian. Are you looking for a nomination, or are you happy to nominate?
Yes, Mayor Nathan, I would certainly like to continue on in the last few months that I've been a part of it. I think we've got a lot of challenges ahead there, I would, however, like that all elected members and that from time to time take note of when the minutes come through and that sort of stuff, because from time to time, because this is such a huge project, and as you know, my pet story is, if it was Victoria, New South Wales or Queensland, we put bridges over top of a dam. And I'm certainly going to be personally pushing to the fact that the amount of money that's going to be spent on this dam to upgrade it, or the Clayton's Dam, because it's got a hole in the bottom, and the thing is to put the road and the link to the Sturt Highway, now is the time to do it. So I certainly would like to be that representative, but I would also like to see that all elected members follow this and support what is going to happen in the future. It's a huge amount of money, and I know we've had floods all over Australia, and certainly Grantham up in Queensland proved the point. You never know when it's going to fall out of the sky and completely annihilate everything, but there's a number of things that I think we've just got to carefully look at this whole thing, because we're halfway down where the water's coming from. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Samble. So just to clarify for members, Councillor Samble has moved to self-nominate. Looking for a seconder. Councillor Solomon, you have your second. Would you like to speak up?
Well, yeah, just quickly say, yeah, happy to second that. You know, thank you to Councillor Samble for stepping into that role in the last couple of months. I didn't speak on the last time, I just acknowledged the amount of work which Paul put into that, and you know, I've sat on the board with him and Norma as well, and there was certainly never any passion missing from his contribution. So thank you to Paul for his service on that, but also thank you to Councillor Samble for stepping into that role, and happy to see him continue in that role as the member rather than the deputy now.
Thank you, Councillor Solomon. Do I have any other nominations for the member? So in the occurrence this actually gets up, reading the room, we will have a vacancy for the proxy member for, I think that's going in and out a little bit. So while we're here, do we want to actually nominate a proxy as well?
I think that's important.
Yep, to support. So the motion as it sits right now is Councillor Sample will be the ordinary member, and we're looking for a nomination for a proxy at this point in time. Is there any hands up for that position? If there isn't any, we can actually operate with just the one member, but just trying to get the business done all at once. Completely respect if people want to ponder and think on it. Not seeing any hands fly up.
That's a question.
Yeah, Councillor Long. I might channel that one through the CEO. When is the meetings for this one?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm going to have to refer that to Councillor Samble. Councillor Samble.
When are the meetings?
When the meetings.
When's the next meeting?
No, when is it typically? It's
When are they
monthly.
Well, the meetings during the day on the mornings and finish up at lunchtime.
Yeah.
Depends on how much work, but some of the meetings have been finished in an hour sort of thing, you know, but, if Cody had time.
So in business hours, I think the question you were asking, Councillor Lorna, unfortunately, yes, it's in business hour. Yep. So we might operate without a proxy for now, and we might revisit it in the February meeting if needed. So if we can leave that one blank, thank you, Susie, for that one. Any further discussion on this one? Are you happy for me to close the debate, or you want to add some words?
Yeah, can I just ask a question?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
One of the things that I have noticed, and I spoke about it many times to Councillor Koch, and especially when we went down in his brand new electric car and he put his foot down, and I nearly ended up in the back seat because, as you know, Councillor Koch had a very powerful car. But one of the questions that I couldn't understand, that the minutes of the meeting from this such important committee only came to Councillor Koch and me as the proxy. I mean, it's so important for Gawler. Why would all the minutes not go to all the elected members? I wonder if Chris...
So the minutes are actually a part of this meeting as attachments, and they are broadly shared.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I can't speak to what happened previously, but our practice now is that they're included for noting by elected members. And
Yep.
for example, they're actually in tonight's agenda. So that is happening, and will continue going forward.
But it's not only going to elected members, it's also publicly broadcast as well.
Yep.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, it
Councillor
does.
Smith? Yep. No worries at all. All right, well, I'm going to close the debate. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you very much, members. Okay. We're on item 9.3. Councillor Solomon, you had some wording. Are you happy to move this motion with some of the wording that you sent through and then speak to? Yep, well. Sorry, just a few technical items here at the moment. Just 2 seconds.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, I'll take questions while we sort out this technicality.
Regarding this particular thing, I'm just wondering, I don't really completely understand it, the difference in what we're doing here.
Yes.
The Business Development Board is operating now. We have a professional staff member in Mr David Barrett, who's been on holidays. He may not be back in broad terms now because he had a great time. But to understand what we're moving here tonight,
Yeah?
is this a separate committee or another committee to do with the businesses in the town?
Yeah.
I'm very concerned that what has happened in the past, the small businesses that are owned and operated by themselves really haven't had much help.
So I'm happy to provide a little bit of an answer while there's some emails getting found over there. So I guess more broadly, the Section 41 committee is in lieu of the Business Gawler Board in its current form. So if this one gets up tonight, the board themselves actually chose not to operate under the model that they're operating in at the moment, and I think it was collectively agreed that some of the economic outcomes in the modern day wasn't able to be implemented by the group via the separate rate, because the administration help that they had internally, because they are their own company, they have to operate their own books, just weren't quite working for the volunteers that are rightfully in the group, but implementing became the problem. I think it's fair and reasonable to say that this particular council, we're able to bring in our economic development officer. I can see Susan sitting in the gallery there, that we actually didn't have in the past, that resource, along with David Barrett and some of his team members. I think collective view was a Section 41 allows direction to be able to be given and scrutinised by the independent committee that will be chaired hopefully by an independent and the like, but the actual doing and the outcomes will be able to be led by council via the separate rate, and really deliver on the whole reason the separate rate was designed for in the first place.
But there won't be another separate rate. At
No.
the moment, I mean, there was the Gawler Chamber of Commerce.
Yes.
Then that was dissolved and it went to a separate rate that went to a separate committee independent of council. And as you explained about Section 41, I understand that. But there won't be another impost on the businesses.
No, not at all. No, I think accountability and separate rate conformability, I think, is one of the main themes on making sure that we are, that separate rate is spent efficiently and scrutinised properly to be able to deliver on the whole reason that separate rate was brought in the first place.
Yeah, okay.
Does that answer your question? Councillor Solomon, you had a question?
So while we get the text sorted, I'm happy to speak to the item. Just while we get the words up on the screen, I'm happy to speak to it. Essentially, there was those 2 amendments which I sent through via email earlier, yesterday. Just to outline a couple of changes I wanted, but I'll speak quickly first to, I think, Councillor Sample's points there, which is that the separate rate and the way it existed, as the Mayor said, that the model that was Business Scholar wasn't necessarily delivering a value for money, especially for those small businesses who do pay, you know, who have that impost that is the levy, compared to some of the bigger businesses like your Coles and yours who really don't care about the fact they have to pay a tiny bit more. So I think that for Business Scholar, one thing that they had, which was an issue that they had to contend with, was all of the overhead costs, the payroll, the admin, paying their fees for the association, making sure that they complied with all the governance requirements, all the accounting and financial reporting requirements, and everything that went into having an incorporated association, only to come out the other end with a small amount of money left to actually spend on the purpose of the levy, which of course is to actually deliver economic and business development for the town. I think that the model that has been moved to is one which was supported by the Business Scholar Board, because it is able to focus a lot more. It is, there are efficiencies found in having a Section 41 as a committee of council, but it still doesn't detract from the independence. I think it adds weight to the advocacy of the people that will be on that group, because it allows them to not only talk about and have opinions which are independent of council, but to actually see them implemented, because before they couldn't be implemented, but now you get tangible actions from that. So I think, and the 2 points which I've asked to have change in there around the foundation document, the terms of reference which we've got for that group, to me those are 2 really important things, because as I mentioned in my email, sustainability for businesses in the long term is really important for us, making sure that we have that long-term sustainability for those small businesses. They continue to trade, they can get through the toughest of times, and so we need to make sure that's a priority. That diversity as well, that business diversity is also really important, because only talking to a trader in the Main Street the other day, we did discuss what one store, you know, meant closing for the store 2 doors down, and what that means for the convenience of shoppers who would otherwise go into one store and go into the other, but now, when, you know, wanting one particular product, they have to travel to the other side of town or go to a larger corporate option in order to ensure they can do it all quickly in the same shopping trip. So I think that's really important, that we do continue to have that diversity in the business offering there. And so putting that in the foundation document, I think, is quite important for ensuring that the interests of those small businesses that Councillor Sample was talking about earlier are actually put ahead of just having economic development and economic growth for economic growth's sake, without benefiting the community and the business community.
Thank you, Councillor Solomon. I'm going to take that as moving the motion, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that wasn't me moving the
Yeah.
motion. Yeah.
Thank you very much. We're just for a second. Councillor Davies, are you happy to second?
Yeah, look, I'm happy to second. This is, I think it's become clear that the administration and bureaucracy has gradually started to become, taking up enough of the physical and emotional effort that it leaves little time for the business of the committee, as Councillor Solomon said. And so bureaucracy and administration is what government does best. And so I think hopefully we can provide the framework and then allow the suitable, community-based members of the committee to give their input. And it's also, we will also have this as a sort of test run, in the sense that it will wrap up in November, not specifically because of this committee, but because all committees will wrap up in November and need to be redone on the new council term. So we will have a bit of a test run there on the constitution and that sort of thing to see how it's working.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. Councillor Hennessy, you'd like to speak?
Yeah, I'm happy with the change to the motion. I'm also very happy, given we had a fairly lengthy discussion in December as to how this is progressing. I think, as Councillor Davies says, in a way we've got a period of time, both council and the members, to test the waters on this one. But my question is, and I guess that's about Councillor Solomon's comment about this being a committee that has lots of independent people on it. It's not made very clear in the report, though. We are getting a report come back to us that the EOI will go out to attract people from the community onto this committee, and then we'll have a report back in March. I'm just curious as to who will go through those nominations and then make the recommendation to us of who should be appointed, please.
Thank you, Councillor Hennessy. I'm just going to direct that one to Mr. Sevilla.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, happy to clarify. I'm envisaging it's myself, Andrew as the Deputy Manager, and Bryce and Sermon in their roles, particularly focused on economic development. And while I've got the microphone, Mr Mayor, I just had a further comment just to expand a bit on the report. There's a key piece for the organisation to run with before the committee's formed, and I just want to let the business community particularly know, councillors, that as a team we're going to try and keep delivering some runs on the ground in the interim to ensure we don't lose any momentum in delivering for the business community while we put this in place, and then this will run through. So I just want to make that clear that we're not going to drop the ball here. We're going to continue delivering for the business community. Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. And as I say, in the end it'll be a decision we make, but yeah, it looks like we're putting a lot of effort into it, so I look forward to the report in March.
Thank you, Councillor Hennessy. Deputy Mayor?
Thanks, Mayor. I just want to say a few words. Yeah, we have a lot of fantastic businesses in Gawler and a lot of business potential, and I think, as has been said tonight, this will provide the support and, most important, the delivery that they need. We ask quite a lot of our businesses, expecting them to pay this separate levy during their council rates, so therefore they expect outcomes, and I believe that this new structure is the best way to deliver those outcomes. I think for me, one of the best parts is that this committee will have a direct link with our economic development strategy and also, of course, with our economic development officer. That being said, I do want to just acknowledge Business Gawler, their board and committee over the previous years for the work that they have done, but also for the work that has come to this, which I believe truly is a great outcome for our business community and the community more broadly. I think the word structured, transparent, and expert oversight is something that is really, really important, particularly when we're managing large amounts of public money. And I think, as Councillor Davies alluded to, we have the structures in place while also allowing that independence of the business community to be maintained, while I guess also having the tools in our toolbox to actually be able to implement these, which, you know, I think we are already seeing some real outcomes for our business community, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen in the future under this new structure. So thank you to all that's been involved with this, and yeah, very much has my support.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. Any other further comments on this item? There be none. Councillor Solomon, I might just say a couple of words if that's okay, and then move to you to close the debate. This particular, members know, this particular topic has been something that we've been discussing at length, not only in this chamber, but I know the Business Gawler board has also been discussing as well. And I think where we've ended up maturing to was around the reliance on busy business owners to be able to tick all the boxes on a governance level that we need to maintain, as Councillor Davies rightfully points out, if we do a separate rate in the commercial setting. There are a lot of compliancy things that we need to be able to tick, and I think it was starting to become probably a little bit unfair and reasonable to make sure that we're doing all those things and then deliver on some of the economic outcomes. But I think that realistically, the reason that the members of Business Gawler decided to join were the right reasons. I think this vehicle can actually help them contribute to these outcomes, that even if you're only in it to serve your own business, it will still help the broader community. But I know that the members that actually put their hands up to contribute to these conversations more broadly want to bring their expertise on business management and the like. What I'm liking, or what I'm attracted to and seeing this model unfold, is the opportunity to see business owners actually provide comment on what will help business in Gawler and what won't. In local government here in Gawler, we have an uptake of about 2% in our local government elections that actually elect their members, us in this room, to have a voice. To me, I think we need to improve on that, and I think that improves if we have better communication back and forth between our business community, our commercial ratepayers, and this is a really good vehicle to be able to drive that. Because business sentiment in this company will be a really good asset if utilised right, and business owners commenting on what would be great for business growth in Gawler seems like a no-brainer. That's my personal opinion, but I thought I'd just chuck that in there. Councillor Solomon, would you like to close the debate?
Sure. Thank you, colleagues, for adding to the debate there. I think I should, as the Deputy Mayor also mentioned, acknowledge that the work that Business Gawler has done over many years now, and I think that this is a new beginning as well for the business community. We had many discussions as a Business Gawler board. Of course, myself being on there as the council rep, we had many discussions about what the real importance of the success of this board was, and we had discussions about why should other ratepayers, why should other people in the town, our community, care about the success of business, and inversely, why should businesses care about the success, care about the lives of the community. And we went back to that common prosperity that is really shared when we have a community that is doing well and a community that is thriving. Businesses benefit because people are spending, people are getting out there, socialising, and people do get a benefit from that as well. They get the opportunity to get what they need from the store, to socialise with one another, to interact, to be part of a bigger community. And I think the mic has just gone out. But I think that joint prosperity and aiming for that goal of having a thriving local economy which provides for that sense of community, but also that interaction, but also jobs and other things that are so important in local people's lives. And that's the real mission here. And so I think this is just the next step in making sure that we are actually reaching for that mission and that's what we're actually achieving.
Thank you, Councillor Solomon. The debate is now closed. I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you very much, members. And we're going to go to item 9.4 on page 19. I might just direct to Mr. CEO before I look for a mover, and then I'll ask for any questions, and then we'll move to a mover.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I thought it was just pertinent just to talk about one key point with the animal management plan that's before you this evening. We went into the community and got a level of feedback, not exhaustive, but we've got some key feedback points that have been recognised in the document. But the one thing that is a popular theme that everyone is concerned about is cat management. And I've deliberately taken a stance here where we haven't recommended that the council pursues its own bylaw at this point in time. I personally believe this is a responsibility that the state and the Dog and Cat Management Board need to take a leadership role in, and then all 68 councils across the state can follow. Whilst I firmly believe we need to take some action in regards to cat management, I don't think now is quite the time for the the town of Gawler to take a leadership position. I'd rather wait for the Dog and Cat Management Board to take up that cudgel. So I just want to make that broad comment, just so you're acutely aware of that before you consider this item. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, CEO. Any questions before I look for a mover on this one? Perfect. Okay, I'll go to a mover then, looking for a mover. Councillor Hennessy, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, and thank you, CEO. That's, I think that is an excellent stand for us to take. I think while there's obviously, as I made comment, quite a large percentage of people in the community who are taking management of their cats quite seriously and registering them, I think it's something that should be done on a state government level. They provide the leadership and perhaps some additional education before we move to that point. However, as I say, I'm very happy with the plan and sort of points that we're going to move forward into. I think, as I said in one of my comments, there's an excellent opportunity for the training industry to come in here and do some standardised dog training. Seems to me like that could be I understand various people are doing different types of training, but might be helpful if the industry got involved. But other than that, I'm very happy to support this.
Thank you, Councillor Hennessy. Looking for a seconder. You're happy to second, Councillor Solomon? Would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just to say that this is, of course, dog and cat management, one of the core responsibilities of local government. People often ask, what do you do as a councillor? And, there's the typical roads, rates, rubbish, etc. And dogs and cats is always the one that seems to surprise people. But I think that it's really important, and we can sort of sometimes underplay the value of having really good dog and cat management strategies at a council level, because you only have to go down to the dog park at Clonley to see exactly how much community facilities and those sort of things actually mean to people, because more and more increasingly dogs and cats pets are becoming part of the urban lifestyle, and especially in the area we're in, where you have bigger, more spread out urban spaces, it's really important that we're adapting to that, and actually as our town grows, making sure that we have the right mechanisms in place to make it as easy as possible for people to do the right thing and for people to be safe, and to care for their pets who they care immensely about. We also, of course, have a really important natural environment here in Gawler, and that's the balancing act that we need to have, is between, of course, looking after our pets and also caring for the natural environment, and they can go hand in hand. But it is important that local government, and indeed as the CEO said, state government take leadership in this space, so that we can have that consistency that allows people to do the right thing, but also to make sure that we're protecting our local environment at the same time as ensuring that the facilities and the spaces we have in our town are appropriate for use by our pets as well. So there's some exciting stuff in this plan. I'm really looking forward to it, especially looking at along with due investigations into some dog parks and extension of dog players. I know my dog absolutely loves getting out the one at Clonley, but so it's good to see this coming along, and thank you to the staff who've put so much time and effort into this.
Thank you, Councillor Solomon. Any further discussion on this? Councillor Davis, and then Councillor Warner.
Yeah, happy to support this. I think the main thing that just from looking at the survey, it's always interesting to see the responses, and noting that we always do have a little bit of a bias demographically towards the northern half of the council in terms of responses. Gawler East and Williston and such tend to get high response rates, but Evanston Gardens didn't make it into the top 8 suburbs or whatever to be mentioned as a percentage, even though I note that it has a significant amount of dog and cat registrations also. And I think that's where we do need to, when we're thinking about new potential on and off leash dog areas, just remembering the southern half of the council as well. But in general, I'm quite happy with this and happy to support it.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. Councillor Lawrence, so you're in next.
Yes, I'm quite happy with it. I must admit that I am disappointed that there is still no real action involved around cats at the moment. You know, we can sit wait for the state government, we can be waiting for years for something to happen. I notice there's a lot more people do take a lot more care of their cats now. They get a lot more expensive cats and that sort of stuff. But, you know, the strays and that congregate around in areas and we're not doing anything about. Yeah, it does frustrate me. The local fauna that's out there that is getting damaged by these cats and that sort of stuff is a real concern of mine. I'd like to see an action happen a lot quicker than just sitting back and waiting for them to do it. So I would like to see us take the stance. I do sort of have understanding why we're waiting for the lead from the state government, but we also make our own decisions on other points as well. But as a whole, as the actual report is, you know, I think it's good, just not about the cats. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Warner. I'm sure a sentiment that a lot in our community would share. Deputy Mayor White.
Thanks, Mayor Shanks. Yeah, just I'm happy to support this motion, but agree with Councillor Lorna. I think I can understand the CEO's point of view and understand where we're coming from, but I do think that there certainly is some areas, while I understand it isn't a priority at the moment, maybe not too far down the track, either taking the lead ourselves or advocating to the Dog and Cat Management Board on in regards to cat management, whether that is things like mandatory registration to sexing for the community, the things like that I think are kind of actions that are happening around Australia that can have some really good long-term benefits. So I'm very happy to support this, but I guess hope, and this is coming from tonight being my last meeting, that potentially, you know, in the not too distant future, some advocacy work could be done at a high level. I would really like to see that happen, and of course would love to see that happen across the state. But if there is anything that we can do within the town of Gawler, I think the community would really, really appreciate that. But I do also understand the sentiment of the CEO and understand this is potentially a larger issue than just 42 square kilometres.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Sam.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Nathan. It's great, but there's still not a strong emphasis on cats. You know, dog owners, no problem, we all register our dogs and all that sort of stuff and so forth, but there's still no registration for cats. And Mr. Darden can put me straight if that's not right, but certainly in the Gawler East area, the feral cats, well, to be honest with you, I've got a soft heart today, and two feral cats that have been living in our backyard, I took them down a dish of water because they looked like they were going to die, but they're everywhere up in that area, but there's still no actual, there was talk a few years ago about that you had to register your cat. Now, I'm not sure whether Mr. Darcy would like to say anything about that. The other thing I noticed that for other pets, a very lucrative industry at the moment is pet rabbits. My grandson's just bought a white, ugly pet rabbit, looks like it's hit a truck, you know, his nose goes in and so forth. $120 for a rabbit. You know, when are we going to go into breeding rabbits? Man, oh man, I couldn't believe it. I'm thinking about it. But, so there's no restrictions and no rules on that sort of thing in the community. And the other thing is pigeons. We don't classify them as dogs and cats and everything. They're a different breed altogether because they fly. Yeah. So I'm just wondering, because they're not getting any less, you know, what Jimmy's got some. You breed them, Jim, do you? Oh, right. But I just wonder if we don't seem to be putting a lot of emphasis on the feral cats in our area. It's also a very passionate thing that Councillor Koch had, because the native birds and everything, you know, the cats are going to eat. And I know they knock over a few dubs in my yard all the time and so forth, because they just have to eat and that sort of thing. But there's still no impost put on somebody owning a cat.
Thank you, Councillor Sam. Question, Councillor Davies?
Yeah, so just, I guess, following up on Councillor Sample talking about birds and management and such, because I know I get woken up at 6 a.m. by corellas every morning. Is there a, if not in this plan, what is around the burden management?
Are you happy to answer that, Mr. CEO?
Through Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to delegate that one to Jack. Thank you, Jack.
Tractor through, is that working? That's,
Just pull it a bit closer.
thank you, through the chair. We do have an ongoing pigeon and corella management program within council, which we address our pigeon populations quite regularly. We have a local contractor that helps us deliver some of those programs, and we do often, address within our central business district and our sort of rural areas the large number of pigeons. Corellas as such, again, another state government strategy that was worked on. We're yet to see a strategy to address corella populations in South Australia, and we're kind of holding off a little bit on that and waiting for them to come through with some directional paper on what can be done, whether it's some form of chemical control or something to that effect to counter the corella populations.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Davis? Okay. Any further discussion on this one?
Just seek leave.
You'd like to seek leave to speak again, Councillor Solomon? I'm going to put that to the chamber. Does Councillor Solomon have leave? You've got it. Thank you, Councillor Solomon.
Thank you, colleagues, for that. Very quickly. As many of you would know, I'm the first to show restraint in criticising other councils and other levels of government, but historically. But I would just on this point, and to build on what the CEO has said, unfortunately, I've been stuck in front of the computer researching cat management research policy, and for the last few days. What has been proven to work in many communities in the East Coast, as mentioned by the Deputy Mayor, is where you do have that consistency across council areas and across states. And if you want to have a genuinely humane approach and actually bring down the number of feral cats, simply euthanizing them doesn't work. It's those desexing programs, but it's having that consistency, because we don't have, cats don't recognise council borders. They also, where there's, where cats might be caught, there's different places they will go and different systems in place. So having that uniform, that consistency, like we do with some of the other animal management schemes that we have around cats, I think from a state government level will actually help and assist with that. Though I do hear what Councillor Lorna is saying, and I think that we can speak about that, and we should speak about that quite freely, and advocate to local MPs, etc., because we really do need that sooner rather than later. And I can only tell you about how many cat complaints I get from people on Cheek Avenue and up Brian's Way. So, agree.
Thank you, Councillor Solomon. Any further discussion? If there be none, Councillor Hennessy, I might just say a few words myself and then move to you for closing. I think the debate is 100% correct from all parties here. I think there's an equal frustration, and why can't we manage our registration of cats and management of cats just like we do with dogs, for example? That was brought in ages ago, and we do have the tools to be able to implement the fines, etc., etc. I think what our plan does is recognise best intentions and what we're going to try to do, and about that education piece, and provide those opportunities. And it is heartening to see, we do see some of those voluntary registrations as well coming through. The numbers on birds and other fauna and other wildlife is very alarming, and I think that is one of the key topics that, given the opportunity, we do need to raise, especially where we are located here. Not quite metro, not quite regional, but I think we do value our river lines, our biodiversity and the like, and more feral cats certainly doesn't help that moving forward. Just to provide a little bit of comfort, I have been to a couple of LGA functions and the like, and it's certainly on the agenda. Now, are we all jumping up and down loud enough? That's another question with another answer. But I think following this and following the discussions tonight, we can certainly collectively advocate on any opportunity we have, because I agree with Councillor Solomon, a more unified approach will actually arm this council with the tools that they need to implement the same sort of penalties, the same sort of restrictions for those in our community, which is hopefully the minority that actually aren't operating in the best interests. And we have the powers to be able to intervene, but at this point in time, I don't think we necessarily have the powers, and inventing our own might cause a double up and a whole bunch of other discomfort potentially as well. That's not to say we back down from the fight, it's just more about arming ourselves ready for when it ultimately comes. So thank you for the ability to be able to add a few words. Councillor Hennessy, would you like to close the debate? You're happy to put the motion? I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you very much, members. Okay, we're going to move on to page 96, item 9.5. I might just hand over to the CEO just to provide a few words, and if there's any questions, we'll ask for them after.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just thought it was an opportunity just to talk through a couple of highlights of this report. You'll note in the recommendation we're 329,000 ahead of where we had predicted we were going to be for this time of the year, which is a great outcome. There's maybe three prominent reasons why that's occurred. We're ahead on our wages bill by $75,000. I'd say that's primarily due to the fact that we've probably got a couple of vacancies that I've held on for a bit longer than I normally would. One, the organisation, the existing staff picked up some of the slack and we didn't need to recruit in such a speedy fashion, so we've managed to bank those savings, which is good. The other one is because we haven't delivered quite as much capital works as we may have liked at this time of the year, our interest bill's down by about $75,000. So we'll take the win there. Another positive was on the income side. We received a $50,000 grant from, I can't remember the grant fund, but it came through from the advocacy work of James Agnes, working within government to provide funds towards our town's infrastructure plan work. So that was a welcome revenue stream that we hadn't budgeted for. One thing I do want to talk about though is there's a concerns page in this report where I've just flagged a few items that we want to give a watching brief on. And one of those key areas for me is waste management costs. There's two components to that that are a bit of a worry. One, the tonnages that we're seeing come through the red bin collection are higher than we'd estimated they were going to be when we set the rates for people to pay their waste management fees. Now, our estimation is that people aren't being as diligent with their putting green waste in the green bin and recyclables in the recycling bin. Perhaps it's all going through in the red bin, or not all, but it's a significant portion still getting through. So we need to work a bit harder with Norma on the education side, so that our community can have an opportunity to do the right thing by the environment, but also help out and help hopefully reduce our costs in the future. The other side we're having a struggle with is hard waste collection. What we're finding is there's a higher propensity for people to simply put things on the verge without booking in a hard waste collection. And what's happening is my team are having to pick that up, or our team are having to pick that up. And that's an additional cost that was originally budgeted for again, because the hard waste collection is factored in for every household in Gawler to get a free waste collection service annually. But many parties think that it's just okay to dump the rubbish on the verge and it just disappears. Now it does disappear, but it passes the cost on to all their fellow ratepayers. So there's two bodies of work there that we'll keep doing some education and advocacy on, but it's an area we need to watch carefully because the costs in the waste management space can blow it very quickly. And I just had a conversation. So for example, at this time of the year, I think they're about $150,000 ahead of where they should be. Now, as an organisation, we've managed to find savings within the organisation to cover that, so the net effect is zero. But the point is, it would have been be much nicer for that 150,000 to go to our surplus rather than to covering up overrun. So I just want to be quite open about that challenge. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Just a question on that one. Am I right to say that our estimations were based on previous year's outcome with a little bit of growth factored in there as well? And that one first part, and then second part, over the December break, etc. Are we thinking there might have been a little bit of fluctuation over that time, and hoping for a little bit of a correction?
It's interesting. Jack's been interrogating Norma to try and get to the bottom of it. Just to go back to your first part, we set them on data that was provided from Norma, so they make budgeted estimations about rubbish collection volumes, and then factor in some growth for population growth. Since the new solo contract, the waste collection contract had been let, seemed to be a correlation, and we had initially thought that maybe it was the way the new company was recording tonnages. Norma have assured us that that's not the case, and so the follow-on from that is that either people have suddenly started putting more things in the waste stream. Society's pretty consistent with what they put into their bins, so our best estimation at this point is it's a lack of discipline around what should be going in the green and what should be going in the recyclables. But again, we don't have 100% certainty, but it is something we're going to monitor closely, particularly as we come into this coming budget, to ensure that we can get as much accuracy into that budgeted figure prior to setting the waste levy charge.
Thank you, CEO. Question, Councillor Davies, and I saw your hand next. Councillor Lorna?
Yeah, so just around the hard waste, are we finding that the actual take-up of the hard waste collection is proportionately increasing also, or are we just getting more people dumping mattresses on the side but no real increase in the actual waste take-up?
The hard waste collection is tracking as per budget, so we're not seeing any escalation in that, and it's tracking as expected for our population. In fact, we're actually probably doing better than our colleagues in the other two council areas. So it is an outlier in addition to that, to the current booked-in hard waste collection.
If I said, sorry, just putting in here, if I said that a neighbour saw them put out some hard rubbish and thought it was okay, and then all of a sudden they're doing the same thing, is that something, and how do we monitor that?
It's difficult to monitor, but one of the things I'm going to do with the team and tonight is the start of like a messaging. I'm going to work with Donna and Jack to put together some social media education pieces so that we can just share with the community about when it's okay to put things on your verge, book it in, get the time right, and when it's not okay. And as an example, I think on the weekend I was driving around and I saw 3 mattresses just lined up on the verges at different locations. And I know they weren't waiting for hard waste collection.
So the capacity to send a bill would be good.
Yeah.
Sorry, Councillor Hennessy, sorry.
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Lorna, you put your hand up.
Mine's based around the same question there. I'm interested in what actually triggers it. Is it calls on the community that are saying that, people dump their rubbish out there, or we drive around and see this? Do we go knock on their doors, hey, move rubbish?
That is one strategy I'm thinking about. We've got to be careful with that. But this is coming first-hand from a lot of my outdoor crew who are driving through most of our suburbs, and they've actually reported back to me their concerns because they're saying we're spending an inordinate amount dealing with this rubbish that we don't normally spend.
Councillor
No,
Hennessy?
I just going back to the hard rubbish. That would be one of the things that I answer most in terms of questions. I actually don't think people understand the system, and I think it's maybe as the CEO says, in engaging the community. Where I live, the street I live, people combine to do it. So everyone gets one a year, but if there's a general call out to your neighbours, I'm about to put it up, and there's a bit of a competition about how much can be packed into 2 square metres, which is quite a nice neighbourly thing to do. But I think the other problem is, people then see some people putting stuff out and go, oh, is that what I do in Gawler? And just, so I think the trick is going to have to be a hidden education system. So that'll be useful.
Thank you, Councillor Hennessy. Do I have any further questions before I look for a mover? Question, Councillor Solomon?
Just in relation quickly, and it might need to be taken on notice, through you, Mayor, just in relation to the time frame which it is taking to pick up hard waste by Norma, has there been any change in that? Has it increased in the last 12 months or so?
Mr. Sear?
Norma actually approached us because their collection for us was slightly behind, in contrast to our 2 neighbouring councils who were significantly behind. Norma did ask us to contribute additional funds to speed up the collection, and credit to Jack. Jack went and told them in no uncertain terms that they've got a contract and we're not paying any more money. And the response was very positive, and they are, I'm not going to say they're 100% on track at the minute, but they've certainly, I wouldn't call it markedly behind. So it's in my mind that the margin of flex there is okay.
Reined it in. Does that answer your question, Councillor Solomon? Sure. I'm looking for a mover. Councillor Davis, you've got your hand up. You having to move the officer's recommendation?
Yeah, look, I'm happy to move the recommendation. Obviously, happy to get a favourable variance, and it does seem like the microchipping for dogs is a worthwhile thing to be doing. Just on the topic of hard waste that we've been discussing, just to, with one of my other hats on as the chair of the Gawler Community House, I can confirm it's not just directly outside their houses. People are dumping rubbish. All of the op shops are spending significant amounts of money on dumping just unusable trash that gets placed in front of their bins. I note the Evanston Homemaker Centre used to have a clothes bins, and those have been removed, and I think I've seen some people still dumping things there at the already removed bins. So I think the op shops and such might be interested in working together on any sort of PR campaign about the use of hard waste and the fact that you get a free one every year, because it's not just directly outside people's houses.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. Looking for a seconder.
I'll second that.
You're happy to second. Any further comments, Councillor
No,
Simon?
that's great. I think it's been good discussion. Yeah.
Thank you,
Forgot to say something. I'm just wondering, I'm not a road scholar when it comes to math. If I've got money in my pocket, I'll spend it. And I know we've got Sharon. Welcome back, Sharon. Fantastic to see you. And Erin has put this together and all. But I just wonder how many of us, as elected members, understand all this info there. I mean, when I was in business, my wife used to say to me, well, the income was so much and the expenditure was so much. And when I look at this, I think, gee, there wasn't much left. So I just wonder if ever we can have Sharon give us a session, sometime to just put us up to date with exactly what we're reading here, because it's a very important document.
So I might take that as a question as well, and just provide a little bit of feedback on the fact that we're starting our budget process for the 2026-2027 year. I know there's going to be information briefings as the calendar is that we accepted late last year, but I think the Audit and Risk Committee is also a really good one to listen in on, because that's where we're able to drill into this. I know this is merely a tip of the iceberg, our monthly financial reports, but this is our tracking document that's able to show what's working and what we need to make sure we're looking at. I know we did talk about the waste management as a sideline, but a very big part of our business. But I guess overall, a little bit of comfort I'd like to give yourself and members is certainly the scrutiny at the audit and risk level is certainly happening, and some of the mentality or some of the management tweaks that have happened over the years are paying dividends. That's why we are seeing $329,000 in surplus above what we were planning on. But we're also acknowledging that those savings aren't necessarily the superficial level of, we just haven't backfilled a position. It's always going to be backfilled and we will lose that money ultimately. It's all about looking at those positions and saying, do we actually need that anymore? Or can we do that within our staff resources, which is, I know, something you're very rightfully passionate about, Brian. And operationally looking at each process and trying to understand, are we doing it the best way we possibly can now? Is there opportunity to save, or is a smaller investment now going to save us long term? Certainly an appetite I'm seeing Mr. CEO and the audit and risk independents are picking up on as well. And this is just the snapshot of being able to show it. But as we move through the budget process, setting up the next council with the next financial year, because as you know, we'll only be here for not even half of the budget that we actually approve this time. I think the checks and balances need to be election proof, and I think we're tracking quite well for that. Did you want to add anything to that question at all, Mr. CEO?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. One of the things, and the Mayor and I spoke about it, in fact, just before this meeting, we're going to work on, I guess we'll call it community-friendly reporting. So in this report, we're going to work out, are there pictographs or different ways we can report to really simplify the information, to make it very easy to digest. So certainly take your thoughts on board there, and we're going to work on that. And Nathan's right, just talk about the future, the budget that's coming for us. The work that's been done this year has laid a very strong foundation for the future, but I think it's important you find a way to tell the community in a simple manner, easy to understand, that we are progressing in the right direction. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Sample? I know there's more budget questions and the like to come as we move into our budget deliberations, but hopefully that provides it. Looking for any further discussion? Councillor Solomon.
Two quick questions, if I may, Mayor. Very good. Just in relation to the dog and cat management fees, my understanding from the report was that was for dogs which we've caught that are not microchipped, and then the cost of doing that. That's correct.
Sorry, Mr. CEO.
Sorry, was that a question about the income is a bit higher than?
Sorry, the dog and cat management, the fee that we're adding.
Oh, sorry, yes.
Yeah,
that's correct.
So, and then from there, I'm not sure exactly what it is, but anecdotally, generally a little bit higher than that to get dog microchip. What's that figure sort of based on, and where's that? Why we just settled on the 20?
So that figure is based on the fact that now we've got staff trained internally, and so it's a small recovery of our direct cost internally.
Yeah. In that case, just a comment, if I may. Yeah, just I guess the understand that is covering costs there, though. And it is an impost on people who are otherwise not planning to pay it. However, happy to see that revised at later points as well, because we don't want to be rewarding, in my view, rewarding people for not having had their dogs microchipped and getting caught, as opposed to people who are going out of their way to pay a higher fee to do it up front. And I understand that this is just covering costs, but also don't want to incentivise bad behaviour. I'm not sure anyone's going to worry about $40 or so to pretend to lose their dog just so they can save $40, but still don't want us to be rewarding people for doing the wrong thing.
Thank you, Councillor Solomon. I think that's noted. Absolutely. Any further discussion? If there be none, Councillor Davies, are you happy? You'd like me to put the motion? I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving forward to our information reports, we're on item 10.1, page 103. Any questions on this one before I look for a mover? No? Just a quick comment before I look for a mover on this one. The audit opinions and the like we see come through the Audit and Risk Committee. I certainly see an appetite for making sure that our auditors are being utilised the best they can. When we're operating good, bad, it doesn't really matter. An audit's always should be looked at in a good way and trying to figure out what we can take out of our contractor to only improve what we deliver on. I'm really heartened to see that appetite run through the Audit and Risk Committee more broadly. So just a quick brief comment there, because I know this is an information report and I know we do have deeper discussions on this particular topic, but if there's no further questions, I'll look for a mover on this one. You're happy to move that way, Councillor Hughes. Would you like to speak to one of them?
Just to say it's a statutory sort of role that we have to go through, but it's also the auditors. That their job is to try and improve our systems and find any faults as well. And it's this audit opinion. There doesn't seem to be anything untoward, so it's actually a really good report. And thank the staff and everyone involved in the process to do it correctly. And actually, the constant improvement that comes through every year is noted as well.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Looking for a seconder. You're happy to second Councillor Davies? Any discussion?
I guess just quickly to mention, as the Mayor has the Audit Committee, I believe at a later point we'll be dealing with a vacancy in the Audit Committee, so if anyone's interested, it's definitely worthwhile if you want to get into the auditing.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. Completely agree on that one. Any further discussion on this information report? There be none. Councillor Hughes, are you happy for me to put that? I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving forward, we have Council Committee minutes on page 109. Any questions at all before I look for a mover? There be none. I'll look for a mover. Councillor Hennessy. Discussion?
Just happy to present the minutes. And just to note that this particular section 41 is continuing to kick goals, given on page 112, the large number of acquisitions coming in. So it just goes from strength to strength, and again, that to combine with the fact that there's significant monetary donations to the cultural centre, just again highlights how well it's going.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. Looking for a seconder. You're happy to second, Councillor Davies?
Yeah, and just to also second that it's great to see all those acquisitions. I think in particular anything relating to John McKinlay may become quite relevant in the near future. And also noting there was a question about where the photo of the current mayor is, and that is a new addition for all the councillors. If you haven't spotted it yet, his face is there on the wall now. So you can let Mrs. Gillett Ferguson know. Happy to second.
Yeah, that tired bloke will go down in history. Thank you, Councillor Davies. Okay. Any other further comments? Not about my picture on the wall, Councillor Semmel. Any further comments on the resolution? There be none. Councillor Hennessy, are you happy for me to put that? I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. We move on to external body reports. We have the item on page 114. Any questions on this one before I look for a mover? Question, Councillor Hennessy?
Yeah, I must admit I do find this, while they're interesting, these minutes, they're a little brief, so there's a couple of questions that I have. Noticing that the GRFMA Authority Board has won a grant, a federal grant of over $750,000. I'm just wondering what that will be spent on. And perhaps Because there was discussion of a recent immediate surveillance inspection of a dam, what were the recommendations, or what were the circumstances and the recommendations coming out of that piece, just in terms of our risk with this this facility?
Thank you, Councillor Hennessy. I'm happy to put that to our CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the questions, Councillor Hennessy. And by chance, this happened to be the meeting that Councillor Sandville dragged me along to, where they discussed this item. So I've just put a couple of answers together here for you. So with regards to the $774,000, it was from the Federal Government's Disaster Ready Fund, and these funds, along with the additional funding already provided by the GRFMA, be used to complete the Gawler River flood mitigation business case. So it's important to note it's not to perform the actual works, it's to put together the business case to support the works proposed. The current business case is recommending the preferred strategy to cope with a 1 in 100 flood event, including raising the Bruce Eastig North Harra Dam by 10 metres. And it's important to remember this isn't a dam that continually holds water. It's a dam that's designed to slow the release of water to manage the downstream flow. A comment here, much remains to do the final business case with a focus on confirming the structural integrity. And one of those key pieces, I'm reflecting on Councillor Sandville's comments about putting a road across the top. Lots of those conversations hinge on what is the structural integrity of the base, verifying project costs and developing an achievable funding model. Now, one positive I might add that wasn't in the official answer here is we've had a very positive conversation with the Minister for Planning, whose team have now made it very clear that they're going to take over the administration and putting the resources required behind this project to effectively run this study, to take the pressure off GFRMA, which just by virtue of the size of the organisation doesn't have the depth of individuals to do the work. So that was a positive conversation. To the second question, the surveillance inspection was undertaken by specialist dam engineers from GHD. It primarily included a visual inspection of the various dam elements, as well as a review of the documentation associated with how it's operated. The inspection found that the dam was generally in satisfactory condition, which was a great outcome. I was pleased to hear that from the meeting, with key recommendations including updating various safety and operational procedures. So it was their supporting procedures just needed updating, and some other minor works such as minor concrete repairs, some handrail repairs, and a bit of vegetation management around the site. So is that Sylvia, I guess we all breathe a bit of a sigh of relief that in terms of that engineering inspection, the dam was doing quite well. Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you for the details. It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, a bit like Business Gawler, there comes a time when this authority, with the board itself, so it's good to hear that the Minister's stepping in and providing that expertise. I think it's another organisation that we need to monitor carefully. We tend to let it just run along, but again, it's a significant investment that we have. And while it's coming up with business cases that I think are absolutely essential, I just don't want to suddenly find ourselves facing a cost blowout on this one.
Yeah, if I may just add a little comment, Mr. Mayor. I've started, prosecuting the case that at some point this asset should be handed over to the state rather than it be managed by the number of councils that have come together to form the GFRMA. There seems to be a shift in the government's stance on this. I'm not going to say they're welcoming it with open arms, but they're certainly welcoming a conversation at this point. So the Mayor and I raise it constantly with our meetings with Mr. Champion, and as this progresses, we'll continue to keep that pressure.
Excellent.
I think the acknowledgement of each council plays a different part along that river bed government at this time. So while that door's open, we certainly want to be able to capitalise a little bit on it.
And I've been around long enough to know at least 2 councils have tried extremely hard to pull out of the... So it's not a nice fit, and that will continue until such time as perhaps the state government recognises it's a major asset. So, excellent.
Thank you, Councillor Hennessy, for the question. Any further questions on this one? There be none. I'm looking for a mover to note the minutes.
Happy to move that way.
You're happy to move that way, Councillor Samble. Looking for a seconder, Councillor Hennessy. Any discussion? There be none. Councillor Samble, are you happy for me to put that motion? I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. That concludes our external body reports. Moving on to questions on notice, which we have Neil. Looking for any questions without notice, members? I'm going to put that down as nil. We have motions on notice. Councillor Davies, on page 122. Are you happy to move your motion?
Yes, look, I think this one's, I hope, fairly self-explanatory, but basically the elections are coming up for council in November, and my previous experience with the council's information sessions is that they've tended to happen during the actual cycle of the election, you know, a month or 2 out, and I found that sometimes people need to go to a session, dwell on it, go away, consider, do I want to make a 4-year commitment? And so I think perhaps early and often, in terms of information, and particularly considering we are soon to be 3 council members down, it's of considerable importance that we have a good and diverse range of candidates for the upcoming November elections. There are a few pieces of information I would like to find out from the state government, particularly the length of the next term, because the recommendations of the local government have been around not holding the elections in the same year as the state elections because it's led to burnout. Particularly in 2022, there was a gauntlet of state, federal, and then local elections within a space of about 6 months. And so the ways that they could potentially do that may involve it being a 3-year term, it may involve it being a 5-year term, but without clarification, that's a pretty big difference in level of commitment for people to commit to. So it would be great if at some time in the near future we could have that information so that we could pass it on. But happy to answer any questions, but I will move the motion.
Thank you very much, Councillor Davies. Do I have a seconder on this one? You're happy to second? Yes. Would you like to speak at all to it, Councillor Sample? Would you like to speak to it, Councillor Sample?
Yeah, second it, yeah.
Okay. Any further discussion? Councillor Solomon.
Just quickly, just a couple of questions before I speak, but at least 6 months, I certainly understand where Councillor Davies is coming from. If they don't necessarily, they have said that they will have the information. I note that staff comments here about the Electoral Commission saying they'll have the information by the end of March. Are we confident in that as well? Because I want to make sure that the information being delivered is the right information.
You happy to answer that one? I do know that we've received a recent letter, but still digesting.
Yeah. We're as confident as we can be in the commitment that's been made at this point in time. Obviously,
That's a big yeah.
that's a yes. That's a yes from Mr. Answer. I guess we won't know the answer until we get there. Going forward, should this motion get up, though, I guess the commitment will be we'll deliver it as soon as we are able, within the parameters suggested by Councillor Davies.
Is that something you'd be happy to amend the motion to Councillor Davies just to say, you know, it's at least 6 months out, where possible.
Yeah, I'm happy to adjust the time frame on the motion to whatever the best wording is, but hopefully, but if, I don't know, do you have a suggested?
I think just say like at least 6 months out.
But I think,
Where possible.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Councillor Davies, your motion, but I think the intent of this motion is 6 months prior to an election, we're able to share everything we possibly can on informing potential new candidates. If the rule book changes on us prior, we can inform on the current rule book. However, we can only educate on what we know. Is that fair and reasonable? Mr. CEO, did you have something to add to?
I was just perhaps going to suggest a wording that may alleviate Councillor Solomon's concerns. If you changed it to endeavouring to start, at least, that gives us flex. Is that?
Yeah, and I mean, it's different to what's originally proposed, but if Councillor Davies is happy with that sentiment, it's just that even the questions which are asked, I mean, Parliament usually sits in May, and that's usually when they do the new legislation. After every state election is when they bring in new changes to local government legislation, and that'll probably be when the questions that Councillor Davies was talking about will actually be answered.
Yeah, so I'm happy with that. I'm also, I guess I wasn't thinking of it necessarily being the same session multiple times, but there's multiple aspects of things that can be covered, some of them not requiring all the details, but I think endeavouring to start is fine with me. Endeavouring to start.
So that's just endeavouring to start at least 6 months. So instead of endeavouring starting, so just while that wording is getting named up, does that answer your question? And we'll touch on the wording once we're all sorted. Any other further discussion, questions and the like? Councillor Hughes.
Yeah, more a comment really than anything else, but about these sessions, trying to get a diversity of our community, because unfortunately this council is really male dominated. It is good that we've got younger members on council as well, so we've got it, but that diversity, trying to cover off on all the different people in our community and being representative of that community, it's really hard, but I do commend Councillor Davies on opening these sessions early. I think trying to encourage people to listen to meetings online or going to meetings, reading agendas, getting involved before they put their hand up is really important. But how we try and get that diversity on our council, I think, is really important. And I have seen some really good people put their hand up before for council and not get elected because they don't have the time or capacity or maybe the knowledge about expanding that network to get the votes as well. So I think that whole process is really important. But there have been some amazing candidates that have put their hand up in the past that haven't been elected too. So it's trying to get that diversity and it is a also even some the cross section of different skills as well is really important too. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Any other further comments on this one? Councillor Solomon?
Yeah, thank you. Just to add to, and thank you, Councillor Davies, here for bringing this to the chamber. I think it's a very important thing, and we've had regular conversations as well about that importance of having a council that that reflects the Gawler community and reflects both what our community looks like, the experiences, and also the values of our community. So I think that's that's something which is achieved well, or is achieved better when we have a higher number of people engaged in the process, engaged in local government, and be able to see themselves in that space. So thank you, Councillor Davies, for bringing this particular one. I would just, as another point, stress just the independence of this and the perceived independence of this as being something which is quite important. You know, keeping that consistency around the information that's being delivered, that it's being delivered in that impartial way that's consistent with what the Electoral Commission really expects is something which is quite important. And just as a slight qualifier to that, just to talk about the importance of our roles as current elected members as well, just to, I would encourage that we also show some restraint as well in how we engage with people who are getting involved in the process for the first time. I know, you know, we've had a couple of milestones this term of council elections. I can only speak from my experience, you know, as a young person getting elected to council. So a lot of people who have had absolutely nothing to do with my being here take credit for my being here. And look, that's something which I think is both disrespectful and counterproductive in some ways. So I think showing restraint ourselves is important, allowing those people to come into those roles free from that baggage, and also that recognising that these people here, and they're put here by one person, put here by one group of people, one people only, and that's the people that vote for them. Secondly, I'm just on the point of that diversity, we do need to ensure that council is actually a space where people from different backgrounds can actually engage, and so it does need to be accessible. And so I think that when election time comes, we need to move beyond sometimes what I think in the past has been tokenistic recognition about young people looking, etc., and let those actions speak louder than those words. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Solomon. Any further discussion on this one? No? Councillor Davies, might I will just add a couple of words. Councillor Davies, firstly, thank you for bringing this motion forward. I think you and I have certainly been in this together since 2018, and some of the information that were available to us at the time when we were getting into council, speaking from experience, I had no idea what I was getting into, and I would have loved the opportunity to be able to come to these sessions way prior to a month out of an election, or close to, just so I could reflect and understand what I was getting into, but also have access to elected members in those sorts of forums. So I think certainly what we've been talking about in light of this motion is the ability to be able to get this up, but also talk about further information sessions and make ourselves available for any Q&A the future decision makers may have. And again, make ourselves available, no fear or favour, and explain the workload, the commitment, the pros, the cons. Because I think the more that understand it is possible to be a part of local government, even if you do have other endeavours in life, it is possible. You can put your hand up and you can contribute, and it doesn't mean you have to be a certain person or a certain gender or a certain race. That's not it. And I think that's what we're trying to prove and provide here in our chamber, to make sure that the safe space is here to come and put forward your own opinions that may differ with the person sitting across the room, but that's a strength, not a weakness. So again, thank you, Councillor Davies, for bringing this forward. I think this is merely the beginning of showing what we can look like, what we can do for a run-up to the 2026 election, and hopefully be one of those exemplars in our industry. So that's all I had to add to it. Councillor Davies, did you want to close the debate?
Yeah, look, just to say, thanks to everyone for their contributions. I think I think of it as, if we want to get the best possible group of people, we need to make sure we're not scaring away, I guess, the kind of person who might have some doubts and then think, you know, I don't know that I'm fully across this, so I won't give it a try. And a lot of those sorts of people potentially would be great, because the kind of people who self-reflect and think deeply before they make decisions, I'd be very happy to have them here on the council. And so by providing as much information as possible, I think we can create a space where we can get all sorts of people and create a great next term of council, no matter who's on it. So I'm happy to move this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. The debate is now closed. I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you, members.
I'm sorry, I had two questions, but I looked down and it's, we went past the questions without notice. May I ask two questions?
I might... You know what? Yep, go for it, Brian. What are your questions without notice?
One of the questions is that opposite the post office, the park there, which is Nowick Park, but everybody calls it Goose Island, it's all now covered in dirt and stuff like that. Is it possible to tell us and maybe even tell the community what's happening there? Because where my thoughts are going, it could be a car park. Now, at the present moment, it's covered with beautiful sealed dirt, and everybody could use it as a car park in the future. Is it worthwhile looking into? That's number one.
Would you want me to take that on notice, CEO, or do you want to provide feedback?
I'll take that on notice.
We're going to take that one on notice. Was that the only question without notice you had there, Councillor Samble?
And the second question is there any update on the wall up top of the street, Pioneer Park? Is there any update on that, please, Mayor Nathan?
Do you want to provide a little bit of a timeline and an update?
Yep, certainly. There is an update, and I think it went live today. So it's public knowledge. The final date when Camco will be off the site and the site will be handed back to the community will be the 6th of February. Tonight, or in the morning, the footpath works will start. So they're going to re-asphalt the length of footpath. And I think that's going to be night works, is that correct? And the final pointing work, which is really now applying that white fine line that you'll hopefully notice that started on the left-hand side of the wall, that will also be completed within the time frame up to the 6th of February. And then the park is back for the benefit of the community in its totality. And in fact, the community will see now all the side huts are gone. The hot weather has played havoc with me, and it continues to play havoc with me. The rollout turf was due to be rolled out today, but given the extreme temperatures, they've had to just delay that. It'll still be within my 6th of February drop dead date. There's 1,000 square metres of rollout turf to be rolled out to present that back to the community at an appropriate level. And then we notionally put aside 20th of March for a reinterment ceremony. So that's the key dates, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I'd be remiss of me if I didn't provide an opportunity for anyone else for any questions without those. No, happy to move on. Thank you. Okay, any motions without notice? We're going to move on to council member attendances. I'm noticing my cross, so I haven't done my homework. I know you're going to be last, Councillor White, is that correct? I think being that we've all been on break, I'm sure there isn't a massive list to run through. However, I'll just quickly dot off mine and I'll send them through like Councillor Hennessy rightfully has done. I was also at the former Mayor and MP Bruce Eastick's funeral. I think it was well attended, a very respectful service. The Christmas carols I attended after our last meeting in that last week. That was very well attended. It was a bit of a warmer night, but again, you know, people rocked up in the thousands, which was great. I won't share the Shanks Christmas lunch or anything in this list, but Australia Day was certainly a standout yesterday, as well as last week catching up with the Minister for Sports and Rec at the ABC Hub, signing over that land from state government was quite a historic moment, while also just checking in on where the Tennis Association is at with their redevelopment. We took the opportunity while the Minister was in, thank you James Agnes for this, to put a whole bunch of presidents for sport in our sporting community in the room with the Minister and just explain where we're sitting at the current state of play. And yesterday after the Australia Day I was able to pop into the Viking Cup and watch some really high grade inline hockey. I know it was very, very hot, but I think the rec centre actually held its own and it was pretty comfortable in there to spectate. It wouldn't have been comfortable in all those pads and rolling around like maniacs, but congratulations to them. I know it's been a very busy 7-day event for the Nationals. That's my list. Councillor Hennessy, did you want to speak to yours?
No, as you see from the list there, it's been a quiet period, but there's been some AGMs coming up, some planning for the History Festival in May, which again will be a very coordinated event, and an interesting discussion with Mr Barrett and the CEO with Workers' Education Association, which I think a member of the public had set up. But again, looking at possibilities for the continuation of the use of this civic centre, and in particular, this one's about adult education. So I look forward to that maybe bearing some fruit as the investigation goes along.
Thank you, Councillor Hennessy. Any other councillors like to do any attendances? Councillor Davies?
Yeah, well, I just want to give a quick shout out to the Gawler Youth School Holiday programs, which they do a lot of them, and some of them are quite substantial. I helped out with the filming of the Gawler Youth film, which will be launched in April for Youth Week, and this year it was all filmed on location at the old convent next to the Catholic Church and the primary school there. And that was quite interesting. So you may see me in a cameo role as usual. You can see if you can spot me. But I think it's youth directed and youth wrote the script, and you can definitely see a lot of valuable experience that are being gained through the school holiday program.
Perfect, thank you, Councillor Davies. Councillor Hughes?
I attended last Thursday night the Gawler Health Advisory Council meeting. They still do have vacancies for community members for that committee, it is pretty well represented, and the current chair is really quite good, a local GP, and we are, basically most meetings sending letters out, getting responses back for the community. So it is quite a good group, but it does need extra representatives from the community as well. There will be an editorial going to the Bunyip shortly to sort of ask for extra help. But if people, councillors pass that on to people they know in the community may be interested, it'd be good.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. When are those meetings and how regular again, just for those tuning in?
So they have, it's normally the fourth Thursday of the month. Start 6:30, normally finish by 8 o'clock at night. They try and have 6 of those meetings that are fairly informal, more discussion meetings, and 6 are formal, and that sort of roster continues throughout the year.
Perfect, thank you very much for that. Any other attendance from members? There be none. Councillor Sample, I've just got Deputy Mayor after you. No, you go, and then we'll move over to the Deputy Mayor after.
Certainly it's been an active time with all that's happening around the place, but I would just like to say a special thank you to you and the CEO with the support that you're giving for our car club, the Gawler Vintage and Veteran Car Club. And today on the radio, on the ABC, James was on there with, did you hear it, did you?
The reporter actually rang me first and I pointed him to James.
James and the President, and the ABC it was fantastic, and I was so very proud to hear the way James spoke about your support, and also the President of the club, and now the Vintage and Veteran Car Club. I think it was all about the fact that the government actually gave the club the ground for $1. You know, it was all about that. But you don't very often hear good publicity on the radio. And it was fantastic, and I was so very, very proud to hear that. And on behalf of the club, to thank you very, very much for the support that you have given as leaders in our community. That'll all happen now.
Thank you, Councillor Sample. I don't know, I'm sure that was an attendance and activity there somewhere. Thank you very much. If there be no other attendance and activities, Councillor White, would you like to seek leave of the meeting to make a personal statement before we move into the confidential report? You're happy to move that way? I'm going to put that to the members. You have leave. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Shanks. Thank you, members, for the opportunity to speak. I just wanted to start by taking this opportunity to formally notify the Chamber that I will be resigning from my roles as Deputy Mayor and Councillor for the town of Gawler, effective at 5 p.m. tomorrow, to take up the new opportunity interstate. As I sit here at my final council meeting, I can't help but reflect on the very first time I got to sit in this chair. It was just over 3 years ago. I was 20 years old, questioning what I'd gotten myself into, discovering at that moment that we'd spent $200,000 on beautifying 2 roundabouts with half a dozen plants on each of them. Thank goodness we've learnt from those mistakes. What I'd like to talk about tonight, though, is this great town that we call home, Gawler. One thing I often attempt to articulate is what Gawler actually is. I've come to find that it's not the buildings, the streets, the houses, or even the heritage walls that make up the essence of Gawler. It's people. The people who were up yesterday morning at 5 o'clock cooking bacon and eggs for a free community breakfast. The people who work long hours knowing that they can come home to Gawler and to take their kids to the playground just down the road or their dog to the dog park. The people who have lived here for decades, watched the town evolve, lost friends and made new ones along the way. And the people who have just arrived in Australia, who have chosen to make Gawler their home because they see what a unique community we are. It's the people who come into this chamber and make their voice heard, sometimes very loud and clear, holding us, their elected representatives, to account to ensure we truly represent them. But it's also the people we don't hear from, the ones we've never actually met, who deserve just as much of a say in their town and live here because they love Gawler just as much as we do. It has been one of the greatest honours and privileges of my life to represent our community on council. I sincerely would like to thank all the members of the community who have supported me as I've grown up in this town, campaigned for council, and since being elected just over 3 years ago. I would also like to thank everyone sitting around this table, elected members and staff, for your ongoing support and collaboration. I'm really proud of what we've achieved over the last 3 years and what Gawler will achieve moving forward. I do truly believe that all of us sitting around here tonight want what's best for Gawler. Sometimes we don't all agree on what that what is, but what we do all agree on is what an incredibly unique place Gawler is to call home. To Nathan and Chris, I wish you both all the very best as you continue leading Gawler and this council with honesty, transparency and authenticity we've worked so hard to achieve. I will miss being part of such a dynamic leadership team, but I know that Gawler is in very safe hands. And on a personal note to those closest to me, my family and friends, who have heard me discuss, scheme, complain and sometimes obsess over the council, thank you for the support, and I hope you will maintain your interest in local government even once I've left. In particular, my mum and dad who are here tonight, and sister Ava. I'm so grateful to have such a loving and supportive family who I will miss dearly. Thank you guys for everything. Local government isn't perfect, and anyone that works in the industry, I'm sure, could tell you that. But right now we live in a world where we're seeing democracies crumble at the hands of misinformation, misplaced emotions, personality over policy and fear. The scary thing is that if it can happen to the largest economy in the world, it's even easier for it to happen at a local level, where a misplaced interest only needs to convince 30,000 people instead of 300 million. Councils could simply operate as a business with a CEO appointed by the government, but they don't. Their setups are the very people who pay rates, live here and call this community home has their interests at heart. But the cake is only as good as the ingredients you put in. We are so lucky to have such a great chamber at the moment, with all members genuinely here to represent the best interests of Gawler. But in a few short months, every seat will be back up for grabs, and that could all change very quickly. We do have so many amazing people who give up their time to make up the backbone of this town. I'm speaking about the volunteers, the business owners, our neighbours. But it's soon time for the changing of the guard in this room. So speaking to the community, if you feel like your voice isn't being heard, if you have some big, bold ideas for Gawler, if you look around this room and you can't see your community being represented, consider nominating for council. If there is just one thing I can leave behind, it's that I was a 20-year-old kid when I got elected, and while the ride wasn't easy and there were many challenges, it has been one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. While it is all well and good for me to sit here and say we need more diverse voices around the table, we equally need to be ready to support these voices and be respectful of their views too. My ask is that while others take up the call, in return, the expectation from this council and the community is to support, welcome, lift up and be respectful of anyone who wants to make Gawler a better place to live. While it would be customary to finish with a quote, perhaps even the infamous Gawler, best of town and country, instead, I want to speak to the Gawler community. Whether you're a member of a footy club, a grandparent, volunteer, student, retiree, one of the many Facebook commenters who allegedly love Gawler too, to please take a moment, reflect on what community actually is, as I requote one of America's most influential presidents by saying, "Ask not what Gawler can do for you, but what you can do for Gawler." Thank you for the honour of representing you.
Thank you very much for those words, Deputy Mayor White. Typical Ethan fashion. I think I can speak on behalf of all members. You will be sadly missed, but that's only a selfish emotion. We're very proud and happy of what you're going on to achieve, and we collectively all know it's only a matter of time until we're sitting here watching TV and you're popping up and we're bragging about how we used to know you. So congratulations. I'm going to miss our April 1st information social media posts that we do, so we're probably going to have to come together and figure that one out. But thank you for everything that you've done. You've only ever promoted Gawler and brought out the best in people, which is why we're probably going to be continuing to run around an oval this year, which is something you brought in and something we will carry on as well. So thank you very much. On that note, I might have a 5-minute break before we move into the confidential items, if that's okay. So those that are tuning in after our break will probably go into confidence, but thank you very much.
Well, that's right, that's right.
You got lots of good points in there. Take their words and put it into action. But also, yeah, exactly, yeah, stuff in there. Photographic evidence of the two of you looking very formal. She hopes to turn out to be so long as she's not actually. It was never heard, that's all. So no more work on the wrench.
Sharon's still out of the room,
Jim,
but
you're
we
on
might
mic, by the
get
way.
started once again. So thank you, members. We are now on item 18.1. As we know, we're going to look for a mover to go into confidence on this one. So if I can get a mover to go into confidence. You're happy to move that way, Councillor Solomon? You're just able to shortly identify the reasoning behind it?
Yes. Yes, sorry. Thank you.
It's a tender.
It's under it is Part D, which is commercial information of a confidential nature, the disclosure of which would could reasonably be expected to prejudice the commercial position of a person who supplied the information or to confer a commercial advantage on the third party, and I would on balance be contrary to the public interest, and K, tenders for the supply of goods, provision of services or the carrying out of works.
Thank you, Councillor Solomon. Looking for a seconder to go into confidence. Councillor Hennessy, you're happy to second. Any further discussion? There being none, I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. We are now in confidence. For those tuning in, thank you very much.